All right, so today we're going to be talking about a phrase we've heard: marry the house, date the rate. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it work for everyone?
It's something that I think a lot of buyers hear, especially in an environment like today when rates are pretty high. The idea is basically buy the house now at this rate, and then down the road you will be able to refinance at a lower rate once rates go down. Now, that doesn't always go that way. First of all, we don't know when rates are going to drop.
We don't know if they're going to drop.
They most likely are going to drop, but there's no guarantee.
But there's a difference between rates dropping and rates dropping enough where you're going to refinance.
Right.
If you're in at 6.5 and rates drop to 6 or 5.9, refinancing isn't always going to make sense. When we say rates are going to drop, it'd be you're in at 6.5 and rates drop to like 4.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it really makes sense to refinance, because the cost for refinancing up front, there's a cost, and then how much is it going to change your monthly nut by, and how long are you going to extend your mortgage? Are you refinancing within the first couple of years, or are you 10 years in and you're going to do another 30-year mortgage? So you have to figure out what's effective and what's really going to work for you.
Yeah, and it also really depends on your financial situation and how much you're putting down. Let's say you can only put down 3%. Well, if home values drop after 6 months, let's say by 5%, you have negative equity in the house. So you won't be able to refinance anyway, even if rates go down, because for you to be able to refinance, the number is 20% equity. Like, you have to have 20% equity in your house to refinance. Now, that's not always the case. You can also refinance with lower equity. I think I've seen 5%.
Again, just like the guy who's getting a 3.5% mortgage versus the guy who's getting a 20% mortgage.
Well, yeah,
you're paying a higher rate anyway.
Yeah, so if you refinance at a lower rate, you're paying a higher interest rate anyway to be able to refinance, and then you're also paying PMI, because you have to pay PMI if you don't have 20% equity in your house anyway. So that kind of defeats the purpose of refinancing to get a lower rate, because you're getting hit with a higher rate anyway.
So the person who's really going to take advantage of this is the guy who's putting 15-20% down,
or who's buying, let's say, a fixer-upper and putting equity into the house by remodeling, improving the house. From day one, you're already building equity.
Even if the value of the houses dropped 2 or 3% or 4% over a 1 year, 2 year period,
right?
You purchased the house at 20% and it pulled back 3%, but you put a deck on, you fix up the kitchen, you still have that equity in the house, and it's going to be easy for you to refinance, or easier for you to refinance.
Right.
The guy who came in at 15% didn't really do anything to the house, and now the market has pulled back 3 or 4%. He's not going to necessarily be able to refinance, or it won't make sense for him to refinance even if he can. And there's more to it than just what's the equity of my house and the value of my house. Just like when you're getting a mortgage, the mortgage broker looks at what's your debt to income ratio, how much do you own on your credit cards, did you just get another car, do you have a third car?
It's like getting a mortgage all over again, right? So you still have to have the right debt to income, you can't have too much credit card debt, like all of that still counts, and they still look at all of that. So that all has to be in order as well.
Yeah, and where I think it's great, you're marrying the house, you're dating the rate, you want to make sure that you're not buying the house and white knuckling it and making sure, okay, I'm just going to get through like 2 or 3 years, and then when the rates drop, we're going to refinance.
Can't brush my teeth because I can't afford toothpaste, but we're going to make it.
But we got the house.
House poor is not a good situation to be in.
Yeah, house poor is a horrible way to go, and to bank on the Fed's going to lower the rate, the Fed's going to lower the rates, and it's going to affect the 10-year bond, and then interest rates are going to be lower. Maybe. Will they be low enough for you to refinance? Will they be low enough where it makes sense? And if you're white knuckling it now, let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, when rates are at 4.5, but you no longer have the same job, you're making less money, and the bank's like, yeah, we're not going to let you refinance. Make sure you can afford the house today, and if you can refinance in the next 3 or 4 years, great. That's fantastic. I'm so happy for you. But don't bank on it.
Yeah, and keep in mind that things might not exactly go your way. From day one, you really need to be able to afford the house and be comfortable with the payment.
Yeah.
And I think you've had some friends who were banking on being able to refinance around the 2007, 2008 era.
We all remember 2006, and prices were flying high, and we're all going to be great, and everybody's getting adjustable loans. I had a lot of friends who were fixing up houses, or who were going to renovate their existing house or buying a new house, and they're in at 9%. And then 2007 came, 2008 came, and it wasn't just that prices dropped. It was people were losing their jobs. People were going heavy into credit card debt. So So I had a lot of friends who were, say they purchased the house for $400, now it's worth $350. They want to refinance because the rates went from 9 to 3.5, but they're maxed out on their credit cards. The value of their house dropped, and they just can't refinance. And they were stuck for like another 4 or 5 years paying 9% when everybody else is buying a house at 3.5. And they couldn't even sell the house because in a couple of cases they owed more on the house than what the house was worth.
Yeah.
So if they could have sold their house, they could have gone out and purchased something for less at a lower interest rate. She could have had the same size house with a lower monthly payment, but they couldn't. They were stuck in the house because they married the house date the rate. In that case scenario, it didn't work.
That's kind of a worst case scenario, right?
Oh yeah, but
that was a pretty big crush.
Assume there's a worst case scenario when you're doing something like this. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to take advantage of it when it happens, but don't bank on it because you can have a bad situation.
Yeah, and you just don't know what the rates are going to be like down the road, how the house values are going to look. I think it's great advice when you meet specific criteria, when you're putting a lot of money down or you're putting a lot of equity into the house right when you buy it.
Or things just might work out in your favor. You might be putting 3.5% down, you're buying a house that needs a little bit of work, and over the next year and a half you've fixed it up and you put the sweat equity into the house, and rates start to pull back, and you reach out to your mortgage broker and say, hey, can I refinance this house? And they go, oh my God, yeah, you can. Let's get you from 6.5% down to 4%. Let's put you in a new 30-year mortgage. You can even bring more money to the table and get more equity in the house and drop that payment even more.
Mm-hmm. It can be good advice depending on your situation. We just wanted to have a little discussion about it so that you know what to look out for, so you can make the best decision for you. That's it for today on that topic. We'll see you in the next video.
Looking forward to talking to you again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.